Just divorced, she checked into a motel with her baby. The millionaire next door noticed her. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is now. Subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Rain hammered the motel's tin roof, a relentless drumbeat that drowned out the world. Ethan sat on the sagging bed in room 6B, the air thick with mildew and memory. The neon sign outside buzzed, casting a sickly green glow through the cracked window. He rubbed his calloused hands, tracing the edge of a scar on his palm, a relic from the night he lost everything. The walls were thin, too thin. From 6A next door, a child's wail cut through the storm, sharp and desperate. Ethan froze, his breath catching. It wasn't just a cry. It was a sound he knew, raw, helpless, like his son's voice years ago. He stood, his boots scuffing the worn linoleum. The crying softened, replaced by a woman's hushed voice, soothing but strained. "Shh, Lily, I've got you. We're okay." Ethan leaned closer to the wall, the peeling paint cool against his forehead. The woman's words trembled as if she were convincing herself as much as the child. He caught the faint pulse of light under the doorframe, a trembling flame, like a candle defying the night's weight. His chest tightened. His son, Caleb, used to beg for a candle when the power went out. "To keep the monsters away," he'd said. Ethan moved before he could think too long. The motel was a graveyard of forgotten things, but he had something to give. In his duffel, he found a bottle of formula, unopened, bought on a whim at a gas station days ago. Next to it, a small packet of fever medicine, still sealed. He didn't question why he'd kept them. Maybe it was instinct or guilt or the ghost of a life he couldn't save. He scribbled a note on a scrap of paper, his hand steady. "For the light you share." No name, no explanation. The hallway smelled of damp carpet and stale cigarette smoke. Rain slipped through a leak in the ceiling, pooling on the floor. Ethan's boots splashed as he crossed to 6A's door, his pulse loud in his ears. He set the formula and medicine down, the note tucked beneath, and knocked once, sharp and quick. Then he retreated, heart pounding like he'd run a mile. Back in his room, he pressed his ear to the wall. Silence, then the creak of a door, a pause. The woman's voice, barely a whisper. "Who?" Sarah clutched Lily tighter, the girl's feverish warmth burning against her chest. The room was a cage, dingy walls, a flickering bulb, a single chair with a broken leg. She'd been pacing for hours, her sweater damp from the leak in the corner. Lily's cries had quieted, but the fever hadn't. Sarah counted her last $6, her heart thumping. Not enough, never enough. The knock startled her, a jolt that made her freeze. She waited, breath held, expecting nothing good. Her ex's voice lingered in her mind, his promises always laced with traps. She eased the door open, peering into the empty hall. The rain was louder here, a steady roar. On the ground, a bottle of formula and a packet of medicine sat like an offering. She knelt, her fingers brushing the note. "For the light you share." Her brow furrowed. She glanced at the candle on her nightstand, its flame wavering but alive. Every night, she lit it, a ritual to claim peace from the chaos her ex left behind. Who saw it? Who knew? She stepped into the hall, boots heavy, and knocked on the manager's door. "Did you leave stuff at my room?" she asked, voice sharp. The manager snorted, cigarette smoke curling. "Lady, I don't play Santa." Sarah frowned, retreating to 6A. She fed Lily the medicine, her hand steadier now. The girl's breathing eased, her small body relaxing. Sarah looked at the wall, the thin barrier between her and the stranger. She tapped it lightly, twice, a thank you to the void. In 6B, Ethan heard it, a soft knock like a heartbeat. His eyes stung. He pulled a faded photo from his wallet, him and his brother, laughing by a lake. "We'll build it here," his brother had said, eyes bright. Ethan lit his own candle, its glow mirroring hers through the wall. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. The motel's neon sign flickered, casting jagged shadows across room 6B. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed, the air heavy with damp and the faint burn of candle wax. The note from 6A lay in his hands, its edges soft from his touch. "Thank you, whoever you are." The handwriting was uneven, rushed, but the sincerity cut through him like a blade. He pressed it against his forehead, eyes shut. The rain outside had slowed to a drizzle, its patter a faint heartbeat in the quiet. Lily's soft whimpers drifted through the wall, the sound piercing Ethan's chest. He hadn't meant to get this close. Not again. Sarah's candle pulsed through the wall, a quiet defiance against the night's weight. Ethan's throat tightened. His son, Caleb, used to beg for a candle at night, his small voice whispering, It keeps the dark away. Ethan had laughed then, ruffling his hair. Now the memory was a weight, crushing. He stood, boots scuffing the floor, and rummaged through his duffel. A wool blanket, barely used, and a pack of oatmeal cookies from a truck stop. Small things, safe things. He scribbled a note. For the nights that feel too long. No signature. He couldn't risk a name, not when his heart was already cracking open. The hallway creaked, rain-soaked air sharp in his lungs. Ethan moved fast, his breath shallow, and placed the bundle outside 6A. He knocked once, sharp, and slipped back to his room, heart hammering. Through the wall, he heard Sarah's footsteps, hesitant, then the doors creak. A pause, her voice low to Lily. Look, baby, someone's watching out for us. Ethan pressed his palm to the wall, as if he could feel her there, just inches away. Sarah sat cross-legged on the motel bed, Lily curled against her, the girl's fever down, but her breathing still uneven. The blanket was warm, softer than anything they'd had in weeks. She broke a cookie, feeding half to Lily, who nibbled with tired eyes. The note trembled in Sarah's hand, for the nights that feel too long. She remembered shielding Lily from her ex's rage, her voice steady, "We're leaving." That strength flickered now, kindled by the stranger's gifts. Who was he? The manager's denial echoed, no Santa here. Her fingers brushed the candle, its flame steady now. She'd lit it every night since the divorce, a quiet rebellion against the darkness he'd left in her. She grabbed a scrap of motel stationery, her pen firm, but paused, heart pounding, fearing this kindness might be another trap. "No," she whispered, pushing the fear down. She wrote, "I don't know who you are, but you're giving us hope. I light the candle to keep the dark away." She slid it under 6B's door, her pulse racing like she'd escaped danger. Back in her room, she tapped the wall. 2 soft knocks, a signal. She waited, breath held. 2 knocks answered, faint but clear. Her eyes stung, she wasn't alone. Ethan read her note in the candle's dim light, his hands steady. "I light the candle to keep the dark away." His vision blurred. Caleb's words, exact, from a night when thunder shook their old house. "Daddy, it keeps the dark away." Ethan had held him close then, promising safety. He hadn't kept that promise. The accident, screeching tires, shattered glass, stole Caleb, his wife, his brother. His nephew lingered longest, eyes pleading in a hospital bed Ethan couldn't save him from. Sarah's words ripped the wound open. He pulled a faded photo from his wallet, him and his brother, laughing by a lake. "We'll build it here," his brother had said, eyes bright. The lake house, a dream he'd buried, stirred in his mind. He moved to the wall, pressing his hand against it. Another knock came, softer, a question. He answered with one of his own, knuckles brushing the paint. Rain tapped the roof, a faint heartbeat in the quiet. Sarah and Lily were here, their candlelight pulling him back from the edge. He didn't know their names, but he knew their pain. It was his own. He tapped the wall again, a vow to keep going, to keep giving, even if it broke him. Sarah heard the knock, her heart skipping. She held Lily close, the candle's glow wrapping them both. For the first time in months, the dark felt smaller. The motel's neon buzzed faintly, its green glow swallowed by the rain-soaked night. Sarah clutched Lily in room 6A, the girl's fever spiking again, her small body burning against Sarah's chest. The candle pulsed on the nightstand, its flame weak, like hope slipping through her fingers. She whispered, "You're okay, baby." But her voice cracked, fear clawing her throat. The medicine from the stranger helped, but not enough. Lily's whimpers grew sharp, slicing through the thin wall to 6B. Ethan sat upright, his heart lurching. The sound was too familiar. His nephew's gasps in that sterile hospital room, fading despite his pleas. He couldn't sit still. He grabbed his keys, the metal cold in his hand, gripping them tightly. Boots hit the floor, each step a fight against the past. He knocked on 6A's door, hard, urgent. Sarah froze, her pulse racing. "Who's there?" she called, voice tight, clutching Lily like a shield. "It's from next door," Ethan said, his words clipped. "Your kid needs help. I can get you to a doctor." Silence stretched, heavy. Sarah's mind screamed warnings, strangers, traps, the memory of her ex's false promises. But Lily's fevered moan decided for her. She opened the door, eyes wide, meeting Ethan's. His face was shadowed, hazel eyes raw with something she couldn't name. "Okay," she whispered. The rain pelted Ethan's old pickup, wipers screeching across the windshield. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, Lily limp in her arms, the girl's breaths shallow. Ethan drove fast, tires hissing on wet asphalt, rain blurring the glass. his nephew's hospital bed face flashing like a blade. Sarah held Lily close, whispering, "You're okay, baby." The truck smelled of leather and rust, the heater's hum a faint comfort. She glanced at Ethan, his jaw tight, eyes fixed ahead, hands steady on the wheel. Her heart thumped, fear and trust colliding. She'd escaped her ex, but could she lean on this stranger? The clinic was a low brick building, its sign unlit but clean. Ethan led them inside, his voice low as he spoke to a nurse. "Good to see you again, Mr. Carver," she said, her tone warm but professional. Ethan nodded, his funding of the clinic a quiet debt to his nephew's memory. Sarah's brow furrowed. "Mr. Carver?" The nurse took Lily quickly, her hands gentle, hooking up an IV. Sarah's legs buckled, but she stood firm, her fingers brushing Lily's hair. Ethan stayed close, not touching, just there. "She'll be okay," he said, his voice wavering, like he was convincing himself. Sarah's eyes caught his hand, scarred, clutching his keys, steadying now as the doctor checked Lily. She saw it then. Pain, deep and jagged, etched into his posture. Not just kindness, something broken like her. "You've been here before," she said, barely a whisper. Ethan's gaze flicked to her, then away, his throat bobbing. "Yeah," he said, the word heavy. "Lost someone. Couldn't help him." Sarah's breath hitched. The nurse's words echoed, "Mr. Carver," and she sensed the story bigger than the motel, bigger than her. Lily stirred, her fever easing under the doctor's care. Sarah exhaled, her chest loosening for the first time in hours. Ethan stepped back, giving her space, his eyes lingering on Lily, soft and haunted. Sarah's mind raced. Who was he? Why this motel? This help? This pain? The nurse handed her a clipboard with forms, and Ethan's name flashed. Ethan Carver, a contact for the clinic. No address, just a name that felt like a key to a locked door. They drove back in silence, the rain a soft patter. Lily slept in Sarah's lap, her breathing steady. Ethan's hand rested on the wheel, steady now but scarred. Sarah saw it again, the weight he carried, heavier than hers. She wanted to ask, to know, but the words stuck. Instead, she tapped the dashboard, twice, the sound carrying their fragile trust, a thread to the future. Ethan glanced over, his lips twitching, not quite a smile. He tapped the wheel in return, a quiet answer. In Sarah's room, she tucked Lily into bed, the candles light a quiet anchor in the dim room. Ethan lingered in the hall, his shadow long under the flickering neon. Sarah paused at her door, turning to him. "Thank you," she said, voice raw. He nodded, jaw tight. "Had to." She tapped the wall, 2 knocks, her heart unsteady. His answer came quick, sure. Whoever he wasn't just a stranger anymore. His pain mirrored hers, a shadow she hadn't expected to find. She lit another candle, its flame reaching for his, and the dark felt less like a threat. The motel creaked under a fading drizzle, its air sharp with rain-soaked earth. Ethan sat in room 6B, the candle's glow casting soft shadows across his scarred hands. The wall between him and 6A felt alive with their ritual. 2 taps, a pause, 2 more to Sarah's latest note lay on his bed, her words raw. "I'm scared I'll fail her." Ethan's chest tightened. He knew that fear, the kind that gnawed at night, whispering of lost chances. His brother's voice echoed, laughing about a lake house they'd built together, a dream buried in the crash that took everything. He grabbed a pencil, sketching the house on a napkin, sharp lines, wide windows, water lapping at its edge. His hands steady, he pushed it under Sarah's door. No note, just the drawing. Sarah sat on her bed, Lily asleep beside her, the girls breathing soft after the clinic scare. The candle's light wove a gentle warmth through the room. She traced the edges of Ethan's last note, "For the dreams we don't say out loud." She remembered shielding Lily from her ex's rage, her voice firm, "We're leaving." That strength flickered now, kindled by the stranger's gifts, his knocks, his silence. They were a lifeline, fragile but real. She wrote back, her pen steady, but paused, heart pounding, fearing this openness might make her vulnerable again. "No," she whispered, pushing the fear down. "I used to dream of a place where Lily could run free. I don't anymore." She slipped it under 6B's door, then tapped the wall. 2 knocks answered, quick, like a pulse. Ethan read her words in the candle's dim light, each one a mirror to his own regrets. He wanted to know her, to see her, but fear held him back. Fear of feeling too much, of breaking again. The rain tapped the roof, a faint heartbeat in the quiet. He tapped the wall, a question. Her answer came, soft but sure. He stood, boots scuffing the floor, and grabbed a thermos of coffee from his bag. A reckless thought hit. Meet her, no more shadows. He knocked on 6A's door, heart hammering. Sarah opened it, eyes wide, auburn hair loose around her tired face, her pulse quickening as she steeled herself against old fears. Coffee? Ethan asked, holding up the thermos, his voice rough. She nodded, stepping aside, her heart still racing but choosing trust. The room smelled of candle wax and baby powder. Lily's drawings scattered on the bed. They sat, the silence heavy but not uncomfortable. Sarah poured coffee, her fingers brushing his as she passed the cup. Her touch sparked something in Ethan, warm and dangerous. You didn't have to, Sarah said, eyes on the steaming mug. The medicine, the blanket, all of it. Ethan shrugged, his throat tight. Couldn't just sit there. She looked up, green eyes searching his. Witoa. The question hung, sharp. Ethan's gaze dropped to his hands, the scar glinting in the candlelight. Lost people, he said, voice low. A long time ago. Didn't help them when I could have. Sarah's breath hitched. She touched Lily's drawing, a house by a lake, her voice soft. I stayed too long. Let him break me. The air shifted, charged with their shared wounds. Lily stirred, murmuring in her sleep, and Sarah's hand moved to her daughter's hair, gentle but fierce. Ethan watched, his heart twisting. Caleb used to sleep like that, small and trusting. She's lucky to have you, he said, the words slipping out. Sarah's eyes softened, but doubt lingered. I don't know, she said. I fought to get us out, but I'm still scared. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're here now, that's enough. They talked until the candle burned to a stub, words halting, but real. Ethan spoke of his brother, the lake house they never built. Sarah admitted her fear of failing Lily, of losing herself again. The wall between them felt gone, replaced by something fragile, alive. Ethan stood to leave, but Sarah stopped him, her hand on his arm. Wait, she said, grabbing a pen. She wrote a note, folded it, and pressed it into his hand. For later. Back in 6B, Ethan unfolded it. Thank you for seeing us. He tapped the wall, 2 knocks, and heard her answer. Then he saw the napkin on his bed, the lake house sketch he'd left her. Tucked beside it was Lily's drawing, a child's scrawl of a house by water. Eerily similar. His breath caught. It wasn't just chance. Their dreams, their pain, were tangled in ways he couldn't explain. He lit his candle, its flame steady, reaching for hers through the wall. Sunlight sliced through the motel's grimy curtains, painting room 6A in streaks of gold. Sarah sat on the bed, Lily giggling as she colored a paper with bright crayons. The air smelled of coffee and wax. Their candle burned low from last night's talk. Ethan's words lingered in Sarah's mind. You're here now, that's enough. Her fingers grazed the lake house sketch, its lines mirroring Lily's drawing, a coincidence that felt like fate. She glanced at the wall, their ritual knock silent this morning. Her heart raced, a mix of hope and fear. Trusting Ethan felt like stepping onto thin ice. Outside, the parking lot shimmered with yesterday's rain. Ethan waited by his truck, hands shoved in his pockets, the scar on his palm itching. His mind flashed to his old office, blueprints scattered, abandoned after the crash. He'd poured his wealth into the clinic, the lake house, anything to ease the guilt that clung like damp rot. His wife, his son, his brother, his nephew, all gone. He'd invited Sarah and Lily to the park. A reckless move, but he couldn't stay hidden anymore. Sarah stepped out, Lily's hand in hers, the girl's eyes bright despite her pale cheeks. Ready? Ethan asked, voice rough. Sarah nodded, her smile hesitant but real. The park was small with creaking swings and a rusty slide. Lily ran to the grass, clutching a crayon, drawing shapes in the air. Sarah and Ethan sat on a bench, the wood cold under their thighs. She's happy today, Sarah said, touching Lily's drawing in her pocket, a new anchor replacing her old habit of tucking her hair. Ethan watched Lily, his throat tight. Good, she deserves it. Their eyes met, a current passing between them, fragile, electric. Sarah's fingers brushed his on the bench, and neither pulled away. Lily's cough broke the moment, sharp and ragged. Sarah's face paled, her body tensing. Not again, she whispered, scooping Lily up. The girl's forehead was hot, her eyes glassy. Ethan stood, keys already in hand. I'll drive, he said, his voice clipped, masking the panic clawing his chest. The truck roared to life, tires screeching as they sped to the clinic. Rain started again, a light patter on the windshield, the wiper's rhythm matching Ethan's pounding heart. Sarah held Lily close, whispering, "You're okay, baby." Ethan glanced at her, seeing his own fear reflected, his nephew's face fading in a hospital bed. At the clinic, the nurse moved fast, hooking Lily to an IV. Ethan spoke to the doctor, his voice low, urgent, arranging everything. "Good to see you again, Mr. Carver," the nurse said, her tone hinting at familiarity. Sarah's brow furrowed, catching the name. Ethan wasn't just helping. He knew this place, these people. The doctor handed her a form, and there it was, Ethan Carver, benefactor. Her breath caught, heart thumping, fearing this kindness was a debt she couldn't repay. Benefactor? The man living in a rundown motel? She glanced at Ethan, his hands steady now as he watched Lily, his eyes raw with worry. Lily stabilized, her breathing steady under the fluorescent lights. Sarah exhaled, her legs weak. Ethan stood by the door, giving her space, his gaze never leaving them. "Thank you," Sarah said, voice raw. He nodded, jaw tight. "Had to." She stepped closer, her hand grazing his arm. "You don't have to keep saving us." Ethan's eyes met hers, unguarded. "I'm not. I'm saving me." The words hung heavy, a confession neither expected. In Sarah's room, she tucked Lily into bed. The candles light a quiet anchor in the dim room. She found a receipt in her pocket. Clinic expenses, paid by Ethan Carver. Not just a contact, but a man with means, choosing this crumbling motel. Her mind raced, old fears resurfacing. Her ex's gifts always came with strings, but she'd fought to escape him, stood firm for Lily. Ethan's choice to live here, to help them, wasn't pity, it was penance. She tapped the wall, 2 knocks, the sound carrying their fragile trust, a thread to the future. Ethan's answer came, quick, sure. Ethan sat in 6B, the receipt's twin crumpled in his hand. He'd slipped, let her see too much. His wealth, his past, his guilt, they were supposed to stay buried. But Sarah's touch, her trust, cracked something open. He thought of the lake house, his brother's dream, now a real place he'd built to atone. Could it be theirs? He pushed the thought away, too raw, too soon. The candle flickered, its light mingling with Sarah's through the wall. He tapped it back, a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. Sarah held Lily close, the dark smaller now, their knocks a vow to keep going. The motel's neon flickered faintly, its green glow lost to the dawn's pale light. Ethan stood outside room 6B, keys jingling in his scarred hand, his breath misting in the chilly air. Inside, Sarah packed a small bag, her movements quick, nervous, her fingers brushing Lily's latest drawing. A house by a lake, 3 stick figures, smiling. Lily sat on the bed, clutching a crayon, her eyes bright despite the flush of her recent fever. Ethan had proposed it last night, his voice low, halting. "There's a place, a house by a lake. You and Lily could stay. I know a friend, a pastor who knew my brother. He could marry us someday." Sarah's heart had raced, hope warring with fear. Her ex's promises always hid traps. But Ethan's eyes, raw and unsteady, held something else. She looked at him, deciding this time she'd trust his kindness, not fear a trap. She nodded, whispering, "Show us." The drive was quiet, the truck's engine rumbling as they left the motel's decay behind. Rain-slicked roads gave way to winding paths, trees arching overhead, their leaves a blaze of autumn red. Ethan's hands gripped the wheel, knuckles pale, his mind churning. The lake house was his brother's dream, built with money he couldn't bear to touch after the crash that stole his family. He'd meant it as a shrine, a way to atone for failing his nephew. Offering it to Sarah and Lily felt like handing over his soul. He glanced at Sarah, her auburn hair catching the sunlight, Lily asleep against her. His chest tightened. Could he let them in without breaking again? Sarah's fingers held Lily's drawing, her old habit of twisting her sweater gone, replaced by this new anchor. She'd fought for Lily, stood firm against her ex's control. Ethan's offer was a lifeline, but it scared her. Dependence had burned her before. She looked at him, his jaw tight, hands steady now. He wasn't her ex, but his pain was heavy, like hers. Lily stirred, murmuring, "Are we there?" Sarah smoothed her hair, whispering, "Almost, baby." Ethan's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, meeting hers, a silent question. She nodded, heart pounding. The lake house appeared as the road curved, its wooden frame nestled against a shimmering expanse of water. The air smelled of pine and earth, the lake's surface rippling under a soft breeze. Lily gasped, pressing her nose to the window. "It's my picture," she said, holding up her drawing. Sarah's breath caught. The house matched Lily's scrawl, down to the wide porch and sloped roof. Ethan parked, his boots crunching gravel. "It's yours if you want it," he said, voice rough, avoiding her gaze. Sarah's throat tightened. A home, safety, but at what cost? They walked inside, the house smelling of fresh wood and open space. Sunlight poured through tall windows, warming the oak floors. Lily ran to the porch, her laughter echoing, tugging Ethan's hand. "Play with me, Mr. Ethan," she said, her smile wide. "Oh, yeah." He knelt, pointing at a butterfly, his voice soft. "That's a monarch." On the porch, he spotted a toy car, left for his nephew, now glinting in the sun. His throat closed, the memory sharp, his nephew's small hand clutching a similar toy in the hospital. Sarah watched, her heart racing. "Why here?" she asked, voice low. Ethan stopped, hands in his pockets. "My brother," he said. "He wanted this. A place to be. Whole." His voice cracked. Sarah stepped closer. "And you? Why us?" Ethan turned, his hazel eyes glistening. "I couldn't save him," he said, the words spilling out. "My nephew. I wasn't enough for him." His voice broke and he looked away. "Helping Lily. It's like a second chance." Sarah's chest ached, her strength growing, forged from nights fighting for Lily. She touched his arm, her fingers light. "You didn't fail her," she said. "You got us to the clinic. You kept her safe." Ethan's breath hitched, his eyes searching hers. They sat by the lake, the water lapping softly, Lily drawing in the dirt. Sarah's voice was firm but gentle. "You don't have to do this." Ethan looked at her, eyes shadowed. "It's not about have to. It's about what's right." Sarah's throat closed, her hand finding his. "For both of us," she whispered. Lily ran to them, her small arms around Ethan's leg, calling him Mr. Ethan. He lifted her, spinning her gently, his smile pained but real. Sarah tapped the porch railing. 2 knocks. Each tap felt like trust, a bridge from their motel nights to this new dream. Ethan answered, his knock steady, a vow to keep trying. The lake house glowed under the late afternoon sun, its wooden walls warm against the cool breeze. Sarah stood on the porch, her auburn hair loose, catching the light. Lily ran across the grass, her laughter sharp and bright, chasing a dragonfly, her latest drawing, a house with 3 stick figures, echoing Ethan's brother's lake house dream, tucked in her pocket. Ethan knelt beside her, his flannel shirt rolled up, pointing at the water's edge. "Look, Lily, a turtle." His voice was soft, steady, his scarred hands calm as he held a toy car, one he'd left here for his nephew years ago. Sarah's chest ached, watching them. The motel's decay was a distant memory, replaced by this: open sky, rippling water, a home. Inside, boxes sat half unpacked, Lily's drawings taped to the fridge, including one with Ethan, a stick figure with a crooked smile. Sarah had moved in 2 weeks ago, her steps cautious, testing the ground. Ethan came daily, not as a savior but a partner, his boots tracking mud across the oak floors. They'd built a rhythm, coffee at dawn, Lily's bedtime stories, candles lit together each night. Now, as the sun dipped, Sarah held Lily's drawing, her fingers steady, her old fears quieter. Her ex's voice still whispered, "This won't last," but Ethan's presence, his quiet strength, drowned it out. They'd planned a simple wedding, just them, Lily, and a pastor who'd known Ethan's brother. Sarah wore a white sweater, her hair falling softly. Ethan stood by the lake, his hazel eyes bright, scars visible in the fading light. Lily held their hands, her small fingers warm, linking them. The pastor's words were brief, but Sarah felt each one. "I do," Ethan said, voice low, steady now. Sarah's "I do" followed, a breath that carried her heart. Lily giggled, tossing grass like confetti, then pulled her drawing from her pocket, handing it to Ethan, her small voice clear. "For our family." Sarah's throat tightened, the image echoing the lake house dream Ethan's brother once shared. The lake reflected the sunset. Pines scented the air, waves humming softly. They sat on the porch, Lily in Sarah's lap, Ethan close. Sarah's heart slowed, each beat a promise. Ethan read to Lily, his voice steady over a story about a brave rabbit. Sarah smiled, her hand finding his, their fingers intertwining. His scars pressed against her skin, a reminder of their shared wounds. She glanced at the fridge, Lily's drawing of them glowing in the dim light, a bridge between their pasts in this moment. Night fell, the stars sharp above the lake. They carried Lily to bed, her room filled with drawings of houses, lakes, and now Ethan. Sarah tucked her in, kissing her forehead. Can Mr. Ethan stay forever? Lily mumbled, half asleep. Sarah's eyes met Ethan's, soft, unguarded. I'd like that, he said, voice barely above a whisper, the toy car still in his hand, his nephew's memory softening in this new warmth. Caleb, his brother, his wife. They'd want this. A new start built from their dreams, funded by the clinic that saved Lily and the lake house he made for them. Sarah nodded, tears pricking her eyes. Me too. Ethan lingered in the doorway, his smile small but real. Back on the porch, they lit a candle together, its flame steady in a glass holder, casting light across their faces. Sarah taped Lily's latest drawing, a house with 3 stick figures, echoing Ethan's brother's lake house dream, to the wall. Ethan smiled, his hand steady. They knocked the porch wall together, 2 soft taps, an echo of their motel ritual, now a vow of their own. The lake stretched before them, its surface calm, reflecting the single flame. Sarah leaned against Ethan, her head on his shoulder, his breath warm against her hair. The past wasn't gone, her ex's cruelty, Ethan's losses, but it was quieter, softened by this moment. They stayed there, hands clasped, the candle's light dancing on the lake, a beacon of their shared dream. The stars thickened overhead, the night cool and vast. Sarah's heart beat steady, no longer racing. Ethan's thumb traced her knuckles, a gesture small but heavy. They'd built something here, not perfect, but real, a family from broken pieces. The world held its breath, and for the first time, the future felt like something they could face together. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that hope can be found in the most surprising of moments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heartwarming Love Story. We bring you stories that touch the soul, renew your belief in kindness, and highlight what's truly important in life.